Hello, Dr. Darch. So I am going to, I have my lesson plan that I write for a group counseling session. I am going to pretend that I am teaching a small group because I targeted this one for students who are a little bit older just because it was something that I wanted to do a lesson on. And although I do talk to students about this as 5-year-olds, I just kind of wanted to do target an older like student base for this one. So I'm doing mine on grief, counseling students who are currently experiencing grief or going through loss. And so I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to be doing, and then I'm going to show, pretending that the students are here. So like I said, this is the lesson plan title is Identifying and Managing Grief in Children. I'm pretending that this has been a group that has been meeting for several months, for 6 months specifically, and that this is our last session. So this is session 6. It's 3rd grade students, and the group is made out of 4 students. And this is kind of like the wrapping it up, seeing what tools we've learned to take with us when we leave this session. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. And so I'm going to go ahead and pretend that they're here. So, okay. All right, friends, welcome back to our grief and loss group. We've been meeting now for a while, for 6 months, and this is lesson 6. So this will be our 6th session, our last session. And remember that although this is the end of our sessions as a group, I'm always available to meet with you. If you're going through a hard time, if you're having a hard time remembering or regulating using any of the tools that we've learned during this group, because it's always okay to need me if you need me. Okay. So, before we get started with what I'm going to do today, I am going to go back over the purpose of this group and why we are meeting. Remember that the purpose of this group is to learn how to cope with grief and manage our big feelings in everyday life. So remember, grief is kind of like that sadness that we feel when we lose someone close to us. Okay, now all of you guys have recently lost somebody within the past year who you are very close with. Olivia, I know you lost your grandmother. Zach, you lost your little brother. Sarah, you lost your grandmother as well. And then Audra, you lost your mom. Okay, so these are some people that we are very close with, and we've spent the past 6 months talking about them, keeping their memory alive, talking about things we loved. Also using this time to learn how to manage that sadness that almost feels like it stops us in our tracks when we are experiencing that intense grief, okay? So can you tell me maybe some of the things that you've learned or some tools that we've talked about? I'll go first because in the last session we talked about our memories with our loved ones that we lost, our special memory box that we are keeping here at school in our group. So this is our memory box, and every week you guys have been putting in a sweet memory of your loved one and kind of keeping it in here so that if you ever want to come back and take your memory out and look at it to recall a special moment, or when you're feeling sad and you want to remember something happy about your loved one, you're always welcome to come back to our grief memory box. Okay, so we've also learned how to breathe through those strong feelings, and how to keep grief from completely taking over our minds. Okay, so who can tell me something that they've learned or taken away so far? Okay, Sarah. Yes. Absolutely focusing on things that we loved about our loved one who passed away. Absolutely. I know you lost your grandmother, and you said that your grandma made the best pancakes. Yep. Yes. That's a good way. What else? Yes, religion. If you're religious, like we talked about, okay, if you do pray, that's an awesome way to, kind of handle your grief, to talk to your loved one who passed. You also lost your grandmother. If that's a way that you cope, that's perfectly fine to use religion to pray and talk to your loved one who has passed. Very good. Good. Anybody else? All right. Okay. So today what we're going to do to kind of wrap up is we are first going to we're going to do this little project right here called My Grief Feelings. So this right here is our heart. Okay, and we talked about how our loved ones, when they pass, they live inside of our hearts. Okay, the memories of them. When my grandmother passed away, she always smelled like, she was Italian, and I've told you guys before, she smelled like lasagna all the time, like the best Italian herb smell, and it was so good. So a lot of times when I'm missing her, I love to make some of her recipes that my mom gave to me. And it makes me feel so much better, and it makes me remember her because I can smell that lasagna and the Italian cooking, and it makes me remember her in a good way. So what we're going to do here is, in this heart, we're going to use whatever colors you want, okay? But I want to look at our emotion wheel. This is our emotion wheel that we use whenever we're talking about big feelings, because there are feelings like happy, scared, loved, mad, sad, anxious, but there are other words that go with certain emotions. So for example, like we practiced, if I'm mad, here are some different ways to feel mad. Am I frustrated? Am I annoyed? Am I offended? Am I jealous? Am I disappointed? Okay, so you have to figure out which type of mad you're feeling. Okay, now a lot of times with grief, we talked about sadness. Okay, being sad. So other words that go with sad on our emotion wheel, we have grief, loss, hurt, disappointed, lonely, guilty. Those are words that go with sad. Okay, then also, grief is weird because you can also feel what else? Who can tell me? Happy. Very good. So although we have those really harsh moments of sadness, we also have really high moments in grief of happiness, where we're happy that our loved ones are no longer suffering, or we're happy when we think about a special moment that we've had with them. So you can also feel hopeful, excited, grateful. That's a good one. Thankful, all those things too. So grief is not limited to just sadness, right? Or anger. It's okay to be angry too, because sometimes you're angry because you don't know why this happened, or you're angry that you lost someone very close to you, which is perfectly normal. It's a wide range of emotions. We just have to learn how to cope with each one. So in your feelings heart, what you're going to do is we're going to pick a color for each emotion. Okay. We're going to start, and we're going to do this all together, so everybody has their own copy. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the first box, okay, and we're going to pick a color. So let's start with, do you guys want to start with anger? Do you want to start with sadness? What do you want to start with? Okay, sadness. All right, let me get my marker. Let me get my crayons. Okay, so sadness is one of the big emotions we talked about that comes along with grief. It's probably the biggest emotion. So let's get a blue crayon and let's use this for our sadness. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the first box, and we're going to color in that box blue. So we know that in our heart, in a heart that has grief in it, okay, sadness is part of that. So then we're going to take our pencil, and next to the heart we're going to write sadness. Okay, just like that. So this is what you're going to do in your heart. Okay, now that we all have sadness and the color we're going to use on our heart, I want you to think about how often or how much sadness takes over your heart. Okay, so then you're going to take your blue, and I want you to color a little bit of your heart with the blue, because some of our heart is going to have sadness in it when we're grieving. Okay, and that is perfectly normal. Okay, so some of my heart has sadness in it. And also I want you to tell me, I want you guys to go around and tell me what type of sadness you're feeling. So not just sad, but specifically. I'll go first. So when I lost my grandmother, I was feeling very disappointed. Okay, Sarah? Lonely? Mm-hmm. Audra? You want to look at the wheel? Okay, look at the wheel. Tell me some. Oh, hurt. Okay. Lost. Very good. Guilty. Tell me why you feel guilty. Yeah, sometimes, we talked about this in one of our other sessions about guilt. Guilt can also come out during grief because we feel guilty that we didn't do something to stop our loved one from passing, or that maybe something we did was our fault. But remember, that's just part of the wide range of feelings. We didn't do it. We couldn't prevent somebody from passing. Okay, very good. All right, what do you guys want to do next? You want to do happy, scared? What are you thinking? Happy? Okay, let's use we always use our yellow for happy. Remember, yellow is our happy spot. So next we're going to color in the next square yellow. Okay, and we are going to write happiness next to it. Because although there is a lot of sadness in grief, there is also some happy moments. So then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to color the next section of our heart with happy. Okay, now just like we just did, who can tell me some words, some feelings that go along with happy? Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to go with grateful because I'm grateful for the time that I had with my loved one. Okay, Sarah? Oh, hopeful. That's a good one. What do you mean by hopeful? Okay, so I know you're religious. You're saying hopeful that they ended up in heaven. Okay, awesome. Yes, if that gives you hope and peace, I love that. That's such a good coping mechanism. Okay? All right, what about you, Olivia? Thankful. Yes, that's a lot like grateful. Thankful for the moments we had with our loved one. Those help us cope too. Very good. Okay. And last, yeah, excited. You're religious too. I love that. So you're excited that you think you'll see them again one day in heaven. Again, those are awesome ways to cope and remember our loved ones in a good, positive light. Very good. Okay, next let's do, you guys want to do loved. Remember, that's a big emotion we talked about. Let's use pink for our love spot. So we'll go to our next square. Okay, I'm going to color it pink for love. And then we will write loved. Because being loved is also part of our grief journey. Because we were loved so well by our loved one that passed, then that's another reason why we feel so lost and sad when we do lose our loved ones, because we love them so much. Okay, so then we color the next section of our heart pink. Very good. Okay. All right, now who can tell me some feelings that they have that go along with pink? Okay, I'll go first. Well, pink, I mean love. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go with cherished because I cherished the time that I spent with my grandmother, and I know you guys did too. Ooh, affectionate. Tell me, can you explain that word to the rest of us? They gave you lots of hugs and kisses. Moms do that, don't they? Moms are very affectionate. I know she made you feel loved, and that's so important. And I know that you still remember those kisses and hugs. Okay, what else? Accepted. That is a really good one, Sarah. So your grandmother made you feel like you belonged, and that is also a great way to cope. All right, very good. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to anxious. Remember what that word means? Anxious. Anyone remember? Worried. Very good. Okay, let's use our gray. Remember, anxiety is our gray spot. So let's use gray for our anxiety that goes along with grief. So we're going to write anxiety over here. Very good. Now let's color the next part of our heart gray. Very good. And why do we feel anxious sometimes after we lose a loved one? Exactly right. Exactly right. Because we're nervous of living life without them, or what it's going to be like without my grandmother's lasagna, or watching her cook it in the kitchen, or your mom tucking you in at night. It makes us nervous and worried about how we're going to survive without them. Absolutely, positively. What else? Confused. Confused definitely goes along with anxiety. Did you read that on our chart? Yep, confused. You're confused. Why do I have to live my life without my mom when everybody else still has their mom? Which can cause negative feelings. Very good. All right, next we're going to do peaceful, because remember, we all have a peaceful spot. What color do we use for peaceful spot? Green. Very good. So we color our next box green, because even though grief can be completely miserable, okay, there is also some peace that overcomes us too. So let's color our next section green for a little bit of peace that we might have, our peaceful feelings. Very good. Right, Sarah. Knowing that your grandmother is at peace also brings you peace. Okay, at peace knowing that they lived a good life, that they left behind a legacy. That's great. Okay, and we have one more left. Now, what I'm going to do for this last box is I want you guys to pick which feeling you are going to focus on for healing yourselves. Okay. For example, I'm going to focus on being happy. I want to focus on being happy and using my grief in a positive way to remember my grandmother. Okay, what about you, Sarah? Anxiety. Feeling anxious about having your first holiday without her. Yes, that can be hard. Just got to remember that the holidays are still going to be special, and you're still going to feel her presence. What else? You are right, Audra. We did not do anger. You're right. We should do anger. Let's do anger. So I'm going to put red as my angry spot. Remember? I'm going to write angry. And then I will color the last section of my heart red, because there is some anger and grief. Very good. Disappointed, frustrated. Absolutely. Olivia, good job. Okay. So I'm going to let you guys keep this, okay? Because whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, remember that all of these feelings live inside of grief. Not just sadness, but anger and peace and love, okay? And just because maybe sadness might be taking over your heart right now, remember there is room for other feelings in grief, okay? I've really enjoyed our groups, friends. And remember that you are not alone. You always have someone to talk to if you're feeling like your sadness or your anger is taking over your grief in your heart, okay? You can always find me. And before you go, I want you guys to kind of fill out this memory this memory worksheet we have about grief. So in the first section, a memory I have from group is, and I want you to write it down. And what is some advice you would give to someone experiencing grief? And then your hope for the future, which means kind of like what Sarah said. Like I said, I'm going to focus on being happy in the future. She said she's going to focus on working on her anxiety. Okay, coping with anxiety that she feels after losing her grandmother. Okay, so after you guys fill this out, we'll share it, and then I want you guys to hold on to those things, because if we ever need to do group again, then we can always do it. Okay, all right.